Hello everyone and welcome back. Today we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to talk about patch 7.0. We're going to go into the detail regarding it and is it a good patch or not. We've done this with previous patches and I think it's a good idea to talk about the patch specifically, not the DLC. So this isn't a review in any way, shape or form of any DLC content, just the free stuff that is going to arrive on December 4th without making any purchases. This includes stuff like the Mask of Slaanesh, but does not include any changes happening to Morathi as that is attached to the DLC itself. So let's jump in and let's have a conversation regarding patch 7.0. Before anything, a big thank you to our sponsor, Instant Gaming. Instant Gaming is a platform where you'll be able to buy games at a discounted rate. There's loads of games releasing recently. Hell, Bannerlord's DLC is finally released after so long. So if you want to get yourself War Sales, you can get yourself a pretty sweet discount. And personally, I'm about to jump onto EU5 after the release of Tides of Torment, so yeah, 23% off is a pretty sweet deal. There are so many titles on offer, you can always find a really good deal on pretty much anything. Not only that, but we do have our monthly giveaway going on. Win the game of your choice. All you have to do is click on the link in the description below, sign up, and that's it. You don't even have to make a purchase. This is a company I've been working with for over a year now, and the relationship is always been quite good. Not only that, but I use their services too. Yeah, gaming is expensive, as you can imagine, and not only that, but I'm tied between gaming and tabletop, which is also expensive. So a big thank you once again to Instant Gaming for sponsoring this video. Now let's return to our regularly scheduled programming. So once again, before we start in, I just want to reinforce this is not a review of Tides of Torment, so nothing Tides of Torment related will be mentioned in this video. Patches are just as important as DLC because the patches are basically what's keeping the game alive at the moment and has been for the past year since there has not been any official content released in the form of paid DLC. Let's start off with the smaller stuff. We have Slaanesh. Slaanesh is a faction that really felt okay as it stood. The only problem is only one legendary lord, but an overhaul for Slaanesh was definitely not a needed thing. All that needed to be done was an update in a very similar way to what Khorne got during patch 6.0. And we got that. We ended up with not only a change to how buildings work, following the format that other Chaos Monogods are doing, but also tech tree alongside replenishment. That was a very big issue for Slaanesh, where replenishment as a whole, since basically the faction was released when Warhammer 3 launched, always felt pretty damn awful. Slaanesh now is comparable to that of Tzeentch, Nurgle, and Khorne. I've been playing a decent amount of time with the Slaanesh Lords. As you can imagine, I'm a very big Slaanesh fan. I must say that they have become much more enjoyable. They definitely felt like a bit of a slog before, mainly thanks to the replenishment and really the kind of awful tech tree, which while decent, it took so long. Now the separation has allowed them to open the pathway a little bit more. You can focus on the infrastructure, you can go and finally boost up your troops very early on. That helps out so much. It was because of how Slaanesh played in the past that I pretty much actively ignored playing Nikari, unless I was using a mod to move him to a different location, because while his start position isn't bad and it is in fact very lore friendly, if the rest of the race plays badly, you're going to have a bad time. Everyone is coming straight for you very, very quickly, and there's just no real way for you to expand upon yourself. Now, Nikari himself, so not the faction as a whole, did actually get a new mechanic, which was something that I wasn't really expecting myself, seeing as, well, Scarbrands got basically ignored in the 6.0 update. It's nothing too big, but what it does do is help out Nikari get some extra forces out quickly, and really, yeah, I mean, that's perfectly fine. It's very lore friendly to be able to convert a lord into that of a Chaos Lord, and the fact that you can do it to elves also really fits with the whole Nikari aspect. There's not too much to talk about here, but I think it's perfectly fine. If anything, it just helps us exploit a little bit more, which I think a lot of people are very keen on. He still has a tough campaign, but at least now he's got something to fight back against. Nikari is actually a lot better now. I've yet to play him on stream at the time of recording this video, but I have been playing him in my own time. And yeah, I'm having a lot of fun. But now we have to talk about the Mask. So this is the brand new FLC Legendary Lord. This means that you do not have to pay for the Mask whatsoever. You'll be getting access to her as soon as the patch drops. The Mask is a really interesting character because it's something that a lot of people have been waiting for. She's another Herald, so very much in the same vein as Epidemius, Skulltaker, even the Changeling, but the Changeling is his own thing. And as an FLC Legendary Lord, most of them tend to not really get much. Arbal was mostly focused on just teleporting to combat, which wasn't really too fun, let's be honest there. And Epidemius, while quite lore-friendly, was mostly just tallying up stuff. He was being an accountant. The Mask is focused around dancers, and those dancers aren't just specific to the Legendary Lord. This is a mechanic that you're going to be using faction-wide, with different dancers for different lords that you can tailor, and I mean completely tailor to your army leader's specific needs. I was not expecting something so thorough. In fact, I was expecting a dance mechanic, but only for the Mask. I would argue that FLC-wise, yeah, it's probably one of the better FLCs that we've had for Warhammer 3 so far. And I'm hoping they'll take that into account when looking towards the future in the form of more FLCs. We're expecting more DLCs and more patches. There's a bunch of stuff that can be done for certain characters that may or may not come in the form of free content. They need to be as good as the Mask, if not better. Now, my only real problem with the Slaanesh rework is that certain skill points were not updated or granted, better yet said. You see Chaos Lords of Slaanesh alongside the new Sorcerer Lord, but I don't want to really talk about that too much, and Demon Princes don't have upkeep reduction. You might think that that's relatively minor, but keep in mind that in some cases you're going to be incentivized to take up Mortal Lords and Demon Princes. The upkeep reduction is always a great way to go because it makes your armies cheaper, meaning that you can field more units. The problem here is this isn't just for Slaanesh, it's actually for all the Monogods. The Mortal Lords have never really had proper upkeep reduction because they're shared with the Warriors of Chaos, who have their own unique format. And I think that that really does hurt. If I want to lead a mortal army, which thematically some people will want to do, not just mixing with demons, it really sucks that I can't reduce the upkeep on them. And what's weird here is there are skills, there are heroes that are split between different factions, and they will actually have different skills, so I'm not sure why that's the case here. Maybe it's Creative Assembly just saying that you should mostly just use Monogod Demon Lords, but I would really like the push to be able to be incentivized to also use Mortals. I've complained about this constantly, and it's every patch, anytime that we've had a Monogod DLC or patch surrounding it, but it's still not been fixed. High Elves. So it's kind of baffling to me that High Elves didn't really get anything for Warhammer 3 until just now, considering how popular they were in Warhammer 2, having a fair amount of DLC and FLC content throughout the second game, but better late than never. High Elves didn't receive a major overhaul in Game 3. Instead, what they've gotten is just reworking things that were already in place to make sure that they work better. This is, like, for example, a complete redo of the tech tree, but it's still in essence very much the same as the old one. You still need buildings and you still need to pay certain amounts of gold for certain techs, but the idea there is just keeping everything a little bit spread out, making different sections, and making everything feel better. Buildings have been updated ever so slightly, but the general gist is that everything is going to be very much feeling like High Elves, and I think that was the important thing. The feel of the High Elves from Warhammer 2 is still there, just updated to be more in line with Game 3. What has been added in was a brand new Confederation mechanic, which ultimately every race should have at least by the end of the lifespan of this game. It means collecting the other Legendary Lords is going to be much easier because people do like the option of being able to play Pokemon. The fact that that Confederation mechanic is also a pseudo-politicking mechanic because controlling the seats of Orphan is quite important, yeah, it actually feels pretty damn good, and you can get some pretty powerful bonuses for specific lords with that mechanic. If anything, yes, the High Elves feel the same, but in a better way. What's really been added in for the High Elves more than anything else is finally finishing off the two Legendary Lords that had nothing unique for them. Teclis, for example, has a very similar mechanic to that of Balthazar Gelt, allowing you to get some powerful lords, access to Cataclysm spells. It's very important to remember that Teclis is one of the best and most proficient spellcasters in the Warhammer Fantasy setting, barring some little jumps in the end times, but we're not going to jump into that. There was no reason to play characters like Teclis in the past. Base game lords originally were not supposed to have anything unique. And the community fought back against that when Creative Assembly stated that, and thankfully they learned that people want to have that replayability function. Teclis feels incredible now. I very much enjoyed his campaign. And the best way to describe it is Teclis feels like a DLC Lord, which you'd like all the base game Lords to feel like a DLC character. They obviously get more attention. He's definitely a campaign that people are going to want to jump into. Tyrion had the Karl Franz treatment, which ultimately isn't a bad thing. It was kind of expected, especially since, you know, head of states, or technically in Tyrion's part, acting head of states, are supposed to kind of focus more on the administrative side of things. You get loads of bonuses that will actually boost up your armies, and ultimately it pairs really nicely with the politicking mechanic with the patrons of Orthwan. It's a good synergy and it works incredibly well. Once again, I would say that he feels more like a DLC style Lord, and that's what people expect. Tyrion and Teclis, both of them having their own unique things, means that every single High Elf now has something unique about them. If I have to say which one is better, it's likely Teclis, but I've had fun with Tyrion. He just feels like another Karl Franz campaign. So if you like the Karl Franz experience, you're definitely going to like the Tyrion experience. But here's where we come into the major rework, the one that needed it the most, Norsca. Norsca's a faction which just basically got ignored. As soon as they got released in Warhammer 1, it was basically the same. They got small updates here and there, but nothing could really fix this race. Norsca has always suffered from an incredible form of identity crisis, which consistently screwed it. No matter how much was done to it, and also no matter how many modders tried, this faction was just always left in the dark. And the problem here is that Norsca is a Chaos faction whilst trying not to be a Chaos faction. The identity was always kind of skewed. The fact is, and I still stand by it, if this was always going to be the plan, Norsca shouldn't have been a race pack in its own right. They were fine in Warhammer 1, but as the map evolved and as the game series evolved over the years, they fell very far behind, and it happens to a lot of races. A lot of them are still waiting for their much fabled update. So what happened with Norsca? The tech tree was fixed up, which was quite important, as the one from Warhammer 1 was atrocious. There were other things that have come into play, like fixing up buildings, introducing a spoils mechanic, which I still think is going to require a bit of time with the player base before it hits that sweet spot, as Generation of Spoils, I will say, requires some spoils after combat. You don't really get it from normal warfare, just for the raising of settlements, and it feels kinda bad there. Monster hunts finally work and have been updated to be just a lot better. It now feels like you're going through a monster hunting expedition. You have all this stuff with the Monstrous Arcanum, with loads of rewards. It's wild that the monster hunting feature has been broken for so long, but at least now it's up to scratch and inherently better. The building system is a lot better too. The fact that you're able to finally build up buildings and they'll have some uses. Being able to use spoils to get tier 4 buildings down to tier 3, or even upgrading buildings further to get a lot more updated stuff, a lot more bonuses. Everything does feel better with Norsca, to the point that I have willingly played Norsca. It's not just for the purpose of videos. I have willingly gone on stream and done 8-hour marathons with Norscan Lords. It is really strange to say that. After this Norscan rework, do I still think that Norsca shouldn't have been a race pack? At this point, now they're starting to feel more unique. Sure, there's still Chaos factions, because they are always going to be attached to Chaos, but that's a thing from lore. But at least now, they feel like their own identity. They will fight like Warriors of Chaos still, and that can't be helped since a lot of their units are going to carry over, or you get some units from the Warriors of Chaos on your side. But it does feel like their identity is now more stylized, and that's really, really important when races start coming into the question. There are so many different races and factions in Warhammer Fantasy that uniqueness needs to be brought in, and sometimes the line is blurred. Human factions will always be human factions, but what separates those human factions from everyone else is very, very important. Wulfric wasn't given much, which is kind of weird. See, Norsca got a big rework, and we were expecting quite a lot for the 2 legendary lords already available. Wulfric just is able to teleport. Sure, he's able to teleport with armies, And there is a cooldown involved, which isn't as bad as some are making it seem to be. But I was very much expecting shipbuilding alongside it, just specifically for him, so he could keep the aggression going rather than being a teleporter. Really, he just acts as a relay for most people. He's still incredibly strong. It just feels like it's almost there. It's definitely something that I've pointed out in the past. Throgg, however, is near perfect. He has the complete monster experience, where Throgg, the king of the monsters, can now be the king of the monsters. You have access to the troll kingdom. You're going to be able to build up to your dominion, get faction-wide bonuses to reduce the upkeep on a bunch of your monsters, also make them a lot more viable, more stronger. There's only two things that really bother me about Throgg. One, the specific troll layers, like the bile trolls and so on, should have also been increasing upkeep. I've pointed this out to Creative Assembly, you never know if that's going to happen in the future, but it definitely allows for more troll-centric armies, and essentially you can get trolls pretty much for free. Well, with enough layers, you can get them fully for free. You can just have a ridiculous amount of trolls all over the place. Right now, there is a limit to how many battle trolls, river trolls, and so on that you can get. You can increase that limit ever so slightly, but there is a hard limit as far as I've been able to see. Which, yeah, not the best when you're going to be fielding loads and loads of armies all over the place. It's really fun, and I finished the whole campaign in about 8 hours on stream. It was like turn 99, and really it could have been done faster. I was just memeing around because, well, we don't have to deal with I eat my enemies. It was literally just waves of trolls, which was frankly hilarious. And coming from a guy who plays Troll Horde on the tabletop, well, not anymore since Games Workshop nerfed it to the fucking ground. Oh my god. But someone who used to enjoy Troll Horde on the tabletop, it is really fun to see. What I feel kind of hurts this is there is no real monster lord at the moment, and there's no monster hero for trolls, right? So maybe in the future we might see some Thamir stuff, which would be kind of cool. A troll lord would have been cool, but I doubt that's ever going to happen. I was kind of expecting Throgg to have access to the Troll Hag, because, like, just exclusive to him. It's not out of the question. But, yeah, it's just not happening, which is a massive shame. Maybe in the future something like that could be done. I know it's been mentioned to CA a few times. I feel like losing out on a possible Troll Hag hero kind of kills off the immersion a bit. And, you know, it fits. Like, she's got death magic, so it's not really out of the question. Norsca has death magic too. But hey, you know, you never know. I think overall the patch has been great. There are some like minor issues popping up with something with AI and so on, but before you start bringing up the pitchforks, I think it's very important to know that this is not the final build. When creators get access to builds, so like what I've been playing with for the past like 2 weeks and so, it's always subject to change. In fact, a pretty major bug that I dealt with Throgg has already been fixed. I reported it, and they managed to fix it. I think that this early access period has actually been kind of good for that regard, because a lot more eyes were able to see it, more creators working on different stylings. This is not about that, but like, you know what I mean, right? There has been a lot more quality control, because more eyes on it definitely means that more problems are going to be found out. So the minor issues and so on that have been popping up, I can't really comment fully on until we're on the final build. But I'm coming from a player's perspective, right? The high elves feel great. Norsca actually feels playable, which I don't think anyone was expecting at this point. Slaanesh feels great. The Mask feels great. I'm pretty surprised with what has been done. Sure, it's taken a long time, but we have to take into account that we've had other patches come out this year, and a lot of stuff has been done with those reworks. And it's very important to take that into account. A lot of patching has been done this year. Shit show aside that we had very recently. So I'm making this video in perspective of like, if you're not interested in purchasing Tides of Torment, if you're waiting to see the reviews and so on, because obviously the reviews are going to happen on the 3rd of December, so it's not too long now. Is the patch good enough to jump in without needing any extra content? And yes, I would say so. If you like Tyrion and Teclis, or if you're finally interested in trying out Norsca, you definitely have a reason to jump back into the game again. Is it as good as the reworks in Thrones of Decay? I think that's probably going to be the patch and the DLC that I'm going to have to keep coming back to make comparisons. I would say it hits fairly close to it. It's much better than the reworks that came into effect for Omens of Destruction, that's for sure. So it's already done very, very well. It's by far better than all the patches that we saw for Shadows of Change, because obviously a lot of that stuff had to be tied up with future patches and, you know, shit shows and all the fun stuff that we really don't want to see in Total War. So, yeah, I would say, yeah, this is really good. This is a good patch. Provided something catastrophic doesn't happen on the day of the launch of the 4th, you should be able to enjoy your time with this patch without too much of a problem. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Let's start a bit of a discussion. Just one video today, as I've needed to relax a little bit, because as you can imagine, I've been throwing a lot of content out there. I've been doing a lot of streams, which, by the way, I'll be live once again on twitch.tv/thegreatbookofgrudges. Pop by, say hi. I'll be showcasing more of the FLC stuff. And I'll see you all again very, very soon, guys. Have a good day.